So you just finished harvesting your plants and you trimmed up all the buds, and you're left with a big pile of trim, otherwise known as shake. Now, you can see that all this trim has trichomes, and perhaps you're feeling a little bit guilty because you were thinking of throwing this stuff out, weren't you? You don't have to. I'm going to show you exactly what you can do using a 100% safe and solventless extraction process called bubble hash. We're going to be using water and ice and these Rosin Evolution bubble bags, which are going to be linked down below in the description with the coupon code to save you some Skrilla on your order if you're interested. I'm going to be going through the complete tutorial and provide some small tips that I learned through researching for hours and watching a few master hash makers perform the art of bubble hash making here on YouTube. I will link the sources I learned from down below in the description. They are some lengthy videos filled with amazing tips. Now, bubble hash is merely one option you can choose for extraction. I also have tutorials on dry sifting, using sift screens and gravity to extract your hash, and of course rosin pressing your material using heat and pressure, which I also have numerous tutorials on, and I'm going to link all of these other methods of extraction down below in the description. I personally will only ever use safe and solventless hash making methods, so if you're into those kind of extractions, just feel free to check those videos out. Now, if you are new to the channel, my name is Matt. This is Mr. Canucks Grow. Today's video is all about bubble hash making, and I know you're stoned out of your mind, so let's just get to the video. But please do not forget to like this video and subscribe. This way you won't miss future uploads. Okay, let's make some hash. Now, the tools that I am going to be using are the straightforward basic tools that you do need to make bubble hash. Now, of course, you need your bubble bags. The ones I'm using are from Rosin Evolution, but you can really purchase any brand. The Rosin Evolution bags are a nice quality and durable bubble bags. You're also going to need a couple 5-gallon buckets, some ice and some water, and some cardboard with a 25 micron pressing screen for drying, or instead of the cardboard, you could use paper towels. There's other tools that you could buy to make some of the processes a little bit easier, like a washing machine to do the agitation process instead of manually doing it, which it honestly isn't that much work, but I am sticking to the bare basics for what you need to get started to making your first bubble run, and I'm gonna be doing all the agitation of the material myself manually using a wood spoon. The material I'm using today is some Shaky trim and small buds from a previous harvest out of the 5x5 grow. Now, after drying the crop and trimming the flowers up for curing, I placed the sugar trim inside a Ziploc freezer bag, and then I placed it inside a freezer for storage until ready to do a bubble run. Now, the freezing temperatures make the trichome heads brittle, which come off the material from the current of the water, and then the trichome heads sink and then fall through the screens, which you then collect. It's a very simple process to understand, but there is a lot of little things that you can do just to make the whole process easier every step of the way. Here's a good tip. The current motion you create when stirring or using the washing machine is what pulls the trichome heads off the material. It's not because the ice or the tool that you're using is smashing the material, it's the flow of the water. The current is what's doing the work. This is important to understand when you're mixing manually and not using a washing machine, which creates this current effectively on its own. You want to have enough water in your bucket so you can stir and create a current. If you have too much ice and material and not enough water, you won't have that proper current that pulls the trichomes off, and your yields will be poor. So just make sure that you're stirring in a circular motion, creating a current, and it is beneficial to change the direction every 10 seconds or so. The change of direction rotates the material and just evenly exposes all the material inside that bag to the strong currents that you're creating. You don't need to be jabbing or smacking the material around in any way like it owes you money. You just need a smooth circular motion and changing directions every few seconds. That is it. Now, let's go back to the setup. I just want to explain all the different bags and how they should be set up into the bucket. Each bag is a different micron and purposely placed in order. The top bag, of which you work all the material in, is the 220 micron bag. So the larger the number, the larger the holes are of the bags for the material to fall through. so all the hash will fall through this bag along with some contaminants like pistol hairs and other leaf matter. It's normal to work the material in this bag on your first run through for about 5 to 10 minutes. After working the material, you want to let everything sit for about 10 minutes or so to let the trichome settle in the water. Then pull the 220 bag out and place it into a bucket off to the side, because it's very smart to do a second run after your first run. So just leave the material and the ice in the bag, and you'll come back to it later. The next bag after the 220 is the 190 micron bag, so the holes are getting smaller, which does mean the trichome heads, they can continue to fall through this bag, but now contaminants are being caught, so it's filtering the hash to make it cleaner. The next bags are the 160, then the 120 micron bag, which continue to catch contaminants and let the trichome head sink through. Now most people, they will discard whatever is in the 160 micron bag because it just catches mostly contaminants and pistol hairs and is not at all really good to consume or do anything with. But what's in the 120 micron bag is now starting to get fairly clean, and some may keep this and some may discard it. It's all up to you. Now every hash maker is different when it comes to the use of these 120, 160, and 190 bags. Some will choose just to straight up skip some of these bags, like perhaps they go from the 220 to the 160 then to the 90, because some feel using every bag is just overkill. The main purpose of the 190, 160, 120 bags is to just get majority of the contaminants out before the 90 micron bag, which is the first bag of where the hash is becoming higher quality and clean enough for you to collect and keep. I will just place all the collected hash from the 90 micron bag on a 25 micron pressing dry screen, which is placed inside a cardboard box to begin drying out the material. Now, here's a few more tips. When collecting your hash, use a smaller bucket or bowl of some type to help expose the hash so you can easily scoop it up. This makes working with the bags during collection easy peasy. The next tip is to use a cold spoon. I will actually keep a spoon in the freezer, then pull it out to collect, because the bubble is easier to scoop it up this way off the bubble bags, and it's even easier to put it onto the drying screen when it's cold. The hash just doesn't stick as much. Now, once I get to my 90 bag and clean it up and collect the hash, I will make sure to spray down the bag and clean off the hash that I missed over the next bubble micron bag, which is the 75 micron bag. This way I'm not wasting anything I missed during the collection. Those trichomes on the 90 are just going to fall off into the bucket, into the next bag, and I'm going to collect them. And clean your bags right after collecting them. I love using my kitchen area as my bubble space because I can use the faucet spray to aid in my collection process and to clean my bags quickly right after use. I know a lot of people do bubble runs outside in the gorgeous daylight on their back patio deck, and they use a hose to be able to spray and clean the bags. You just want to make sure that you clean them quick and don't ever let them get gunked up, because it will hinder your extraction yields. And I also recommend that after every few runs you clean the bags in rubbing alcohol just to make sure that those holes are cleared. Now I repeat the same process in the 75 micron bag as I did the 90 micron bag. I drain the water, use my smaller bucket to make it easier to collect, grab my small cold spoon, and scoop and place on the 25 micron dry screen for drying. Another tip when waiting for the bags to drain with the water is I like to spray the sides of the bag to make the hash on the sides fall down into the middle pool of the bag. It's just a quick 1 second spray, but it really helps pull up the trichomes to the middle and makes collection a breeze. Now the next bag is the 45 micron bag, and once again, repeat the process and collect. And don't forget, after collection of each bag, you do want to clean the bag over the bucket with the next bag to catch any missed hash during collection. And of course, as we gradually collect the hash from each bag, you do see the difference in color of the hash. Each bag the hash passes through acts as a filter, so the hash is becoming cleaner, and you can visibly see this when comparing the collections from each bag. So what I do like to make sure I do is write the micron numbers on the corner of the dry screens and keep collections separate. The last bag is the 25 micron bag, which drains the slowest, but a tip to help speed up the last couple bags is push air through out by squeezing the bag tight at the top like you're holding a chicken by its neck with one hand, and then slide your other hand down, forcing the air out through the bottom, which pushes the water through. And after that, you can just start bouncing it lightly, and the remaining water will just quickly drain. It really helps speed up the process, and it shouldn't take longer than a few seconds to drain these last few bags when you use these tips. I will say this, if you just stand there and let the water drain on its own, it's gonna take a while. Now this is the completion of the first run of the material, and it's time to reset up the buckets to repeat this whole process. So I grab all my bags and I place them back into the buckets in the proper order, and of course we cleaned each one after the use of them so they're ready to go. I then grab the main working bag, the 220 micron with all the material and ice still in it, and once again I just place it into the bucket, set it all up again, add a little more water and ice, and repeat this entire process. I only run the material twice through, and once I am done I will empty that wet material and remaining ice into a strainer to drain before discarding. Okay, now the hash is collected, and now it's time to dry the hash, and there's a few ways to go about drying your bubble hash, and the main goal is just to dry your hash quickly so mold doesn't form. What I did to dry my first bubble runs was break down all the hash into smaller chunks on the pressing screens, which were on the cardboard absorbing all the water, and then I placed the hash next to a dehumidifier in AC unit and just kept the hash completely covered so contaminants can't fall onto them, and I found that it was only 1 to 2 days the bubble hash was actually pretty close to being complete. So this way of drying the hash actually worked pretty good for me, but there's other ways like microplaning. You want to freeze your bubble hash the second you collect it, and once that bubble hash is frozen, you then pull it back out, grab a piece of cardboard, grab your microplane tool, and you would basically, like a cheese grater, grade the hash over the cardboard into finer grade hash and then dry it out that way. Now I guess another way to dry your hash would be to own a fancy freeze dryer, and perhaps you already have one, but yeah, you can just collect your bubble right away and just stick it in the freeze dryer and bingo bango, don't gotta do anything. But now that the bubble hash is dry, I personally just like to press it into rosin. It's some of my favorite kind of rosin to make, and of course I will happily make a tutorial on pressing bubble hash into rosin in the near future, but for now that ends this video tutorial on making hash from your Shaky trim. Now this channel really does live off likes and comments, so if you want to be kind and just help myself out by, you know, hitting that like button and commenting, I'd say thanks, and you're a pretty cool dude. If you have any questions or suggestions, just hit me up in the comment section. I love hearing from you all. I'm gonna link all the products and coupon codes down below, including all the grow equipment I use, because I assume if you're watching this, you probably grow some weed. Thanks for all the continued support on this channel, and especially on my Patreon page. Thank you to all the Patreon supporters. You guys rock. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.